I'm begging for a pegging, Daddy. One man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in Hex on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call Hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
Can you take me higher? Welcome in, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto. Thanks for screwing up my Scott Stapp voice right there. But we are back after a week off during the Thanksgiving holiday. We are back to greet you with all-time low pulse chain prices, but also the ProveX sacrifice going on. We actually have Bitcoin and Ethereum perking up a little bit right now. The majority of market participants would call that a dead cat bounce, and we're inevitably go, Bitcoin to 35K because this, that, and the other reason, and it did it before, and blah, blah, blah. And the way things have gone the last 4 years, they'll probably be right, but we'll dive into that tonight. And we've got a new Richard Hart stream. Can you believe it? Video, whatever you want to call it. That came out yesterday. And it was actually pretty funny because I just got the notification that he tweeted, but I didn't. I was like, I'll check that later. And then 15 minutes later, I was like, holy shit, this is a video. I wonder how much that happened to other people. But we'll get to that and dissect that from every way around. Spoiler alert. I mean, I think we both think it's pretty damn bullish. There was one thing that I don't know. We'll talk about it. I don't want to get into it now, but we got a lot of you here in the chat. Hit the like video if you're here to support the channel. We saw RH Max there. Yes, we are anyway. I'm a big Creed fan. Ewok, I don't know if you are quite as much, but we got some Creed singing in the house. Welcome into the chat. We've got Viper Styles, of course, FN Base 6203, as I said, RH Max, and a whole lot more pouring in. So I appreciate you guys being here. We do this every Wednesday night, usually at 6:30. We bumped it up to 6, had some extra time. Sorry if we caught you off guard, but you can also catch us on the replay. But Ewok, a lot of things going on in this market right now in the world, macroeconomics. I mean, it's just a crazy, crazy time. But how are you feeling about everything right now?
Yeah, there's a lot happening. A lot of it is bullish, right? Quantitative easing started. The tightening is done. So, that happened on the 1st. A lot of money getting injected. There's a stream from the founder. Yes, the sacrifice took a lot of people by surprise, I think, and were kind of pulled off by it at first. But the further that you dig down, maybe it's not a bad thing. So, we'll get into that here in a little bit. But I think there's a lot of reason to be excited for what's coming. Prices kind of suck right now. I think a lot of that has to do with the sacrifice. The video yesterday definitely, I think, impacted some prices. And we're feeling it now, but that's kind of bullish. Get rid of those, get rid of the tokens, put them somewhere that probably won't sell them. Good for me. That relieves a lot of sell pressure. So I'm excited for the next couple months. I've been bullish. I haven't really wavered from that. But the more and more that happens, I think gives us reason to be very, very positive for what's coming.
Well, we hope delusional perma bulls will win, because we've really got nothing else at this point, and most people have sold it, at this juncture anyway. And throughout crypto, we never had retail show up. So let's get into the broader market, because I don't want to spend as much time on this as we usually have been the last few weeks with all the news we have within our good Pulse Chain ecosystem here. But we got Bitcoin right now. Again, charging a bit today, is showing some strength for now anyway, up at almost 94K. I'm sure it's wicked over it at this point. It's right there. We have ETH just about to hit 3,200. It's up 6% today. And of course, that's another thing we didn't mention yet, is the Fusaka upgrade launched today, actually, for ETH, which we will get to a little bit of. Richard Hart did mention it in his video the other day. But good to see some strength from ETH. Will it last? Is it just going to be a couple-day thing because of this upgrade? I don't know. We're all very gun-shy to think anything positive is going to last at this point. So, very kind of despondent. But interesting to see some green. I mean, even the people that are calling for the start of the bear market are, predicted, we'll probably see a rally into January. It'll fail and come back down or whatever. We don't know. And, you and I mean, if you've been around crypto at all, I mean, if you're a seasoned enough vet, there's definitely not proof here that this is the turnaround yet. Definitely nowhere near that. But, good to see good action in the market, good things happening. That's the nice thing, is like, whether technically wise or charts or prices at the very moment, foundationally, and there's a lot of things being built out, a lot of things happening here. And really the positive movements in crypto for the better part of 2 years and ongoing right now have not matched the price in any way. I mean, that's really what we've been seeing here, which is why we've, continued buying it just at this juncture. But Ewok, I don't want to belabor it too much because we've gone over it a million times. Where the hell are we in this? Are we in a cycle anymore? Do you feel that they exist? Do they? And it's a different amount of years? Is it actually up to the macro liquidity? What the hell is going on in your view? Where do we see Bitcoin go in the months ahead, along with Ethereum? And then we'll kind of just attack it from any direction here.
Well, I think we still are. I think we're still in a cycle. Whether how close to 4 years actually is it? They're sometimes shorter, they're sometimes longer. There's really no science to it. I'm sure macro is playing a big part in this. I'm also sure that institutional money is playing a big part in this too. There's been a lot of manipulation, and it's clear. It's clear also that the retail people just aren't here. They don't have money. So I think there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of skepticism. Rates are still high. There's just they're not here yet. And whether you want to call it still a 4-year cycle, whether you want to call it elongated cycle, everybody can kind of be right. But the worst thing to do is say that it's over. I think there's still a lot of good things happening. Like you said, the ETH update today, Fusaka, that had happened, making some nice green candles. And, I think we'll dive deeper into what that's actually going to do as well. It's very bullish, so yeah, I think retail needs to get here soon, because they're clearly not. They're not here yet. People need to do a better job of talking about the coins they hold. Yes, prices are down. You want people to get in now. Rather than when it's running up and everybody's talking about it and they buy the top again. So, people aren't doing a very good job of talking about these things and saying how extremely undervalued everything is. And I think that's kind of our job that we've got to do better at. We're here every Wednesday. We talk about it. Again, I've remained pretty bullish about the whole thing. Yes, the prices are down. It sucks, but again, we've got to get the normies in here, and get them into this instead of putting money in the bank for fiat. You're just losing value. So, it'll happen. It'll happen sooner, I think, rather than later. But that's, again, it's still all speculation.
I think to kind of give or this has helped for me anyway, but like to try to give clarity to some of the situation because, you've got everybody trying to nail this down exactly, the classical chartists and stuff like that are not concerned with any kind of news and just look at like, well, Bitcoin closed a few weeks in a row below the 50-week MA and stuff like that, which usually marks the start of the bear market, and then the 4-year cycle and this year cycle, or maybe this time it'll be a dip and a shallower one. And like, no matter what, it's like you poke and prod and fuck with this thing until it fits what you want it to be called. I feel like with all these people, it's like, the 40-year cycle, no matter what. And I think to make it clear, it's like, is it time to sell? No. Like, are we above prices I bought? Well, obviously, no, not at all. So, it really comes down to that. And it's like, I like what Sami dumbs it down to too in his videos too lately. He's just been saying like, do you bet that the world is going to continue to get more digital like over the next few years? Like, obviously, yes, abundantly. And I think what you said is so key, Ewok. Like, and this is what I don't get about some of the, the Bob Lucases or the big Cheds or some of the traders and stuff. And again, it's a different mindset. They're traders. They are not investors. They're not. I know Bob technically, apparently, is a long-term holder, but he doesn't really believe in this kind of stuff the way that we do. He holds Bitcoin, and it's obviously been co-opted by institutions, and I don't think they're really admitting enough. Okay, your little cycle timing, which is the definition is very loose, or it can still work with months and months of it not lining up correctly for you. But I don't think they're acknowledging enough how different this has been. Like, that it's been, like you said, totally controlled by institutions in terms of BTC. I know they're not concerned with Ethereum and altcoins because they don't hold any and they don't care, and they can't imagine there's a market of people who are broke that want to get out of it in this country. And around the world, I'm sorry, not just America, obviously, even more so around the world. But there's just a large group of people that like believe in this stuff actually and are dedicating like we do. And like so many people in this community beyond the Pulse Chain community, beyond any other ecosystem, dedicates free man and woman tam hours to all the time, and I just don't think some of those larger people understand that. They don't need to understand it. They don't care to understand it. But you have to acknowledge that those things have been different this time. And I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but that's kind of what I've been thinking to dumb it down is like, instead of trying to, well, we've got to run by 26, we've got to run at this time. It's like, am I selling now? Is it an environment to sell? No. Retail's not shown up. I mean, that's something we can all agree on,
Yep, exactly. That's my feelings too. Eventually it'll happen. And again, why would you sell at a loss? It doesn't make sense unless you're tax harvesting, end of the year. If you've got profits and you need to cancel them out, I guess that would be the only reason I could think of to sell if you're not in profit. So yeah, we just wait. Now, I do want to mention on the chart here, this line, this old line that was spin on there, we did get above it. It did dip down to it, and it's pulled back up above it. So, if anything, I guess that's kind of bullish for Bitcoin. This is the weekly chart, so we're zoomed out pretty good. We are riding between the 50 and the 200, which is it's closing in on that 50. So yeah, this could be a nice little dipperoni pullback. Obviously, there were a bunch of liquidations yet again. People keep placing those shorts and longs, and they keep getting liquidated. Eventually, they'll learn, and just buy and hold. That's what you've got to do at this time. So, trying to the lottery ticket mentality, man, it doesn't work. And you're trying to play leverage. And put it on a 10x and you get liquidated before you know it, because they know there are bot hunters out there that are liquidity hunter bots out there that will mess with the price just to liquidate you. So keep that in mind. I don't think many people know that, but there are on exchanges, there are liquidity hunter bots that will kill longs and shorts.
And, the other, and it's interesting, I think 2024 was the year of, you were talking about the lottery ticket mentality. 2024 was Solana meme coins,
Hmm.
that's how people were getting that fixed. Now it's just continuing to leverage Bitcoin basically
Yep.
this year, and everybody getting completely decimated, obviously. And the other bullish, smaller indicator people aren't really looking at, certainly the Bitcoin people aren't looking at and seeing that it's different, is with this drastic Bitcoin pullback, which, got to 35-40% or whatever from the high. We did not see at all what you typically would see at the start of other bear markets of Ethereum dying against it, altcoins completely dying against it. And I'm talking about obviously like the altcoin index, like others versus BTC. When you say this to some of the big Bitcoin accounts, they'll be like, look at the dot chart. You don't call that dead? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, it probably is. But I just mean, we're talking about an index here. That's what we mean, not you can pick and choose whatever it is you want to talk about. And that's significant. I mean, for Bitcoin to have this big of a drawdown, again, close below the 50-week MA multiple times, and for the altcoin market not to just be decimated, that is different, if we're
Yeah.
starting a bear market. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's different. It's definitely different. And nothing the same about it, especially the time. So
mhm,
we
yeah.
wait. We wait. That's all we can do.
Yep, that's it. And to your point, a little bit of a transition here, but in terms of the macro stuff, which we should acknowledge because we've got some big stuff happening right now and this month, that could be a catalyst. And I think anybody that is trying to be objective, probably rather than calling the Bitcoin or crypto 4-year cycles, um, just that, a 4-year cycle, because question mark, I don't know, we just call it that because we do, and it happened to have been 4 years. What's that based on? Before it was the halving and stuff like that. But again, I think we've all, if you're really looking at it objectively now, realize that it's like the macro liquidity cycle, which has just happened to be roughly 4 years during Bitcoin's existence.
Yep.
Well, now transitioning into that stuff, we've got Fed QT officially ended on Monday, the 1st of December. Of course, we saw like a huge drop whenever that happened, but it's not as if like just the ending of QT instantly makes the market go up. It's just another one of those things like the cutting of interest rates or anything else, that the effects are long lasting over the following months. But we did have that just end. We've had rate cuts starting since September of last year, or this year. We're still in 2025. We've got FOMC next week, where it's a virtual lock again that they'll be cutting rates by another 25 basis points.
Hmm.
We've already got basically a news leak that it sounds like Trump is replacing Jerome Powell with this Kevin Hassett, who has served on the board of Coinbase and is crypto friendly, which, that's more of just that's maybe the one that I have the least amount of, oh, that's going to change everything type of thing. But I mean, it is a good sentiment thing for adding it into all these other aspects going into 2026. So a lot of good news. Oh, and the Fed, by the way, just injected $13 billion into the economy the other day. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Good timing there. So yeah, they've been kind of they stealthily do this where people don't even know it. So the Federal Reserve just pumped $13.5 billion into the U.S. banking system through overnight repos. This is the second largest liquidity injection since COVID and surpasses even the peak of the dot-com bubble. So yeah, there you go. So we are seeing that happen. There's likely to be more. Trump has tossed around the stimmy checks and then walked it back, and who knows? It's best not to depend on that kind of thing. But again, there's many macro things happening, and we could see the business cycle numbers start to perk up here too in the coming months, which have been, historically atrocious for 3 years, basically.
Yep.
So how do you marry all this with the bear market starting, according to
Well,
people?
and I don't know if you saw this or not, but he's also talked about not only the stimmy checks, but starting an account for kids that are born after July 4th. They're rolling this bill out on July 4th, I think, that starts kids with, it's either $1,000 or $2,000 each, that they put in their name when they're born. It's called the Trump Fund, or the Trump, I forget what it's called, but either way, they're opening an account for every kid that's born. They can't touch it until they're 18. It's meant for student loans or first-time home buyers or things like that, for when they do turn 18, to be used for that type of thing, without penalty. So it's tax-free. It'll it's pretty cool. I heard something briefly about it, and I should have looked into it a little bit more. But I thought that was a cool idea. Either way, you're right. We shouldn't rely on stimmy checks, but man, would that be a catalyst or what? You know, and honestly, if the tariffs are generating as much as they say it is, I keep hearing about income taxes being removed as well, and a flat tax on just when you buy things. So all kind of things could happen. They've been pretty aggressive about some of these new things, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. I don't think. And if even one or two of them happen, it could be a very big catalyst. Now, how long does it take? Well, this kind of thing usually takes months to get past, but still, it would definitely be a nice, kick in the pants for the economy, for things to get going, for money to be spent again, and the market to turn around. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many signs pointing to what could continue to happen in 2026. And yeah, I guess we just got to see, is it just a random 4-year cycle based, on, I don't know what. I mean, I don't know what those people say that it's based on other than just it's 4 years.
Yeah,
Or
time.
is it, yeah, right. Or is it more just up to liquidity? So we shall see. It is a lot of good stuff. Of course, we will report on the Fed decision next week. It'll be interesting to see what Jerome Powell does say. And I imagine they'll probably ask him questions about his replacement and Trump starting to talk about that and everything too. So that will definitely be interesting as well. So I think we're good on that. If you guys are enjoying the stream, do us a favor, hit the like button. Also subscribe to the channel. We do this every Wednesday, almost every at 6:30. Almost always 6:30. Not doing either of these things today. PM Eastern Standard Time. But anywho, we got a lot to talk about with Pulse Chain. A lot. So first off, let's just do our typical pricing thing. We can kind of do that, and then of course talk partially about why the reason partially that the prices are where they're at. But yeah, they are dipping more as we speak right now. So we've got Pulse right now at 4 zeros and a 1.5. I can't quite see your screen. I'm just looking at my app in the background, but got that. We got Pulse X at 4 zeros, 1034. We have Hex at 002636. We've got Ink at 54.5 cents roughly. EHEX at, it lost a 0, I think. Yeah, 3 zeros and a 9 now. If you are into PDI, it's 0014. If you're into ProveX, there's not a token yet. So we'll talk about that in a little while. But we do think that obviously the sacrifice phase, even though it's actually in a less advantageous place technically to sacrifice today as of, compared to the last, whatever it's been now, 2 weeks or something like that. I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem to be that there could be a chance that people are selling their positions in these core tokens to sacrifice for ProveX. And it may have to do with, hey, they got some information more concrete about it yesterday from Richard Hart on a video. So that's understandable. But really, before we do get into that, just looking at the prices, obviously not pretty right now, but you can buy more Pulse X, more Hex than you ever could have before if you believe in this. And it's another one of those things where I know there's a lot of people like within the ecosystem that get frustrated about like where we're at, where the prices are at. We just spent 25 minutes and do every single show talking about the conditions of the market, which are well beyond Richard's control. The intraday movements of Pulse and all these tokens is really just noise in the grand scheme of things. And if you go look at a lot of other tokens, especially like in the DeFi sector and stuff from the last couple of years, things are not looking good, pricing wise. I mean, they're down low. The difference is a lot of those, you don't even know what's going on with it anymore. I mentioned Polkadot earlier. I don't even know what they're doing now or if they're doing anything. Meanwhile, we have a founder who just got an unprecedented ruling against the SEC in court this year. That Ethereum doesn't even hold to make sure that his stuff are not securities. and has a new product essentially that is maybe semi a fork of ZK P2P, but also it sounds like kind of a new product coming out soon. So yeah, the prices don't reflect what's going on is I guess what I'm saying. So I mean, I definitely want to scoop these up here. The tricky thing is we're seeing a lot of volatility right now, of course, because of the prove X sacrifice phase. And also we don't know where this market is going, like we just spent 20 minutes on. So I understand if people even kind of want to, you know, sit on their hands a little bit. I saw somebody earlier in the chat saying they weren't buying right now. And I do understand that. Like, you know, people have things to take care of right now. And, you know, you got to keep your head on a swivel. So if you wanted to build up a little bit of cash on the side or maybe just DCA a smaller amount to see where we're at, I get it because it can feel like a falling knife. So, or just the minute you get cash, just ape into the market like I've done for the last few years and pray. But anyway. This is where we're at. What do you make of the prices right now, Ewok? Yeah, what do you make of where we're at?
Well, I think exactly the fact that Richard came out yesterday with a video. A lot of people were sitting on their hands at first with the sacrifice. And now that they got a video, they were, you know, I heard rumors of Richard's not alive. I heard, you know, it's all AI. Someone else is running his account.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of that stuff. And well, last night, you know, we got a video, and it to me sounded like he's going to do a lot. I think to get this Prove X thing mainstream, right? It's not just a pulse chain thing. It's a broader product. It's usable on a lot of chains, actually. You know, from going from base to you know, pulse chain. You could do that. You could go from BNB over to Solana. So there's a lot of use cases for it. There's you just proving certain things that you sent, you know, whatever it may be, a title of a car. I think as long as you could get it on the blockchain, you could prove that you signed it over. That's the type of product that this is. So once we had the video from him last night, I think because you couldn't sacrifice any of the core tokens, I think you're seeing people sell them and actually throw a little flyer on it. It's a very low evaluation. And I think it's worth a shot at this point to be so low, which means, you know, Richard needs a little bit of redemption. And
a lot of it, I think. I think
and he had admitted that, you know, they were very, very heavy on the first two, and there was a lot of sell pressure. You know, when you give that kind of bonus to that many people with that much money that is illiquid, you know, people were rewarded with a lot of tokens, a lot of tokens that were basically just dumped on the market. And you're still seeing the effects of that. So, you know, bad timing, illiquid markets. There's a lot of causes to what we're seeing now. But again, I feel like people are understanding that he needs to redeem himself in a very big way. And because this one is so small, because people are so broke, I think they're scrounging together and dumping some of these core tokens. Now, in the long run, I think it's a good thing. I think that's more tokens off the market that can't be dumped in the future. So it's a combination of things, and I really think that's where we're at. This could be a very final shakeout, and when one thing starts to roll, who knows what happens? You know, this could be very, very bullish. You know, are we going to go into the Prove X thing here? Like I saw somebody even explaining or asking to explain what it is. And
We will.
Al-
Yeah.
Also, there is no token yet, Viper Styles. I don't know if you saw that, but I can't copy and paste your what you sent. I can't for some reason. I don't know why. When I click on it, it just shows the comment.
Either
So
way, whatever that token address is not ProveX. So I don't
yeah,
know what it is.
unless that's I don't think that's a sacrifice address either. So
Definitely not. No.
just yeah, there's no token out yet. The sacrifice will be running until July or
Nice.
January 9th. July, yeah, January 9th is the final day. I do foresee it being launched pretty quickly after that's over. He even said so himself that we don't need a product to have a token. Now the you know, either way, I I think this is a good thing. I think prices, as much as it sucks to say that the prices are down this far, we are definitely shaking out some very weak hands. Maybe they're trying the shiny new thing. We'll see. But either way, this is less that they can dump this price. Or they're dumping it now to get that other thing. So the more gets flushed out, the better off I think we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. It's I don't know. It may continue for a couple of days here. I don't know what we will find as a low for Pulse. I mean, not all of not all of the quote unquote core tokens are at lows. I mean, Pulse X is still a bit up, obviously, from its trying to remember the others. Honestly, I don't remember everything, but yeah, we're going to see volatility like this for a few days, and I wouldn't be looking at any what am I trying to say? Any of your portfolio values or anything like that. It's an interesting time. So I
Yeah.
get people being, stressed out, upset, stuff like that right now. It's just something that we're gonna have to get through. But I wanted to kind of talk mainly about the Pulse just prices right now. I guess it's hard to do that without starting to get into the ProveX thing, but I think there is a lot of reason to be really bullish on not just ProveX. I don't mean like as the product, but the idea, the sacrifice set, and some of the things that Richard said yesterday. So there's no reason to keep looking at prices. So we can just kind of move on from that to get
Oh
to
yeah.
his.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, I didn't mean that. I just mean like I don't have anything else to say if you don't really about that. But
No.
so
No, it's down. Everything's down.
yeah,
Let's not look at them any longer than we have to.
yeah, I pretty much agree. So we will just go to his stream, and then after that we can kind of look at where we're at with ProveX right now. So actually, if you want to just pull up the ProveX site while we talk about all this, that might be good just to have it in the background. We could see like the SAC balances and most importantly that chart that shows as the rate, there you go, does kind of tick up. So as you can see with ProveX right now, we are at almost 14.5 million. It looked like sacrificed. To put that into perspective, if you're talking about the PulseX and Pulse sacrifices, PulseX was hundreds of millions, right, Ewok? I forget what the exact number was.
It was, yeah, I think it was close to a billion. I know at one point there was $900 million in there. So
yeah,
for Pulse X, I think 600 million for Pulse, 650,
yeah,
and another 9 for Pulse X.
So huge valuations, like you've said before, with basically like the paper gains of hex sacrificers the last time around, and this really for ProveX is the exact opposite. Nobody wants to do this, not literally nobody, but the majority of people don't want to do it. I don't think Richard, through any other series of events, could have probably like pissed off or gotten people within his own ecosystem, especially that are prone to it, to be more pissed off at him. You have people leaving it obviously and like joining new communities and interviewing people from other ecosystems and writing diatribes about Richard and stuff. And Buck from Fiat fame, no pun intended there, but Buck and Dylan, who are running the main sacrifice pool for this, which we've talked about before, has brought up a lot of good points about how like that's what has just made this look like such an opportunity here, because it's an extremely low valuation. You can see on the screen now the number one sacrificer that is now over $5 million sacrifice. That is the pool that Buck has created, that you and I have both partook in there as well, Ewok, but leading with the multiplier of like 2.65 right now. But Buck has pointed out like the insane sentiment around this, how Richard basically got all these things to align where running another sacrifice, you get this setup now. Like it's almost like the perfect storm of people being upset and not wanting to do this to create what looks like probably the best like initial offering since Hex that he's done, with the lower amount of money involved here right now. It's basically the inverse of the Pulse X sacrifices. Now, we didn't think, even though Pulse and Pulse X, are heavy from the amount of people that sacrificed, you still didn't think that the Bermuda Triangle of shit was going to happen this cycle where Ethereum never does anything. Like you still thought, okay, Ethereum gets to 10K plus at least, and that helps pull everything up and everything no matter what. So the kind of bloated valuations of Pulse and Pulse X, that you had that in the back of your mind. Now ETH does nothing, and so far, and we're kind of out where we're at. So I'm rambling, but I guess first, before we actually get into the points of his stream, and again, I know, and look, if you guys are watching this and don't want to sacrifice for this, don't believe in it, ignored RH's stream, whatever, don't do it. Like, we're not persuading you to. I know when these kind of things happen, people that are not maybe like streamer community members or something, they just see us on a screen and assume that we are like part of the club or something like that. All we do is just fire up our computers and do a stream and talk about what we're doing. Like, we're not looking from an ivory tower and like totally made it from Hex and are on some island somewhere or something like that. You know what I mean? And to me, like, sacrificing for this right now is a way of trying to triple down on what we've already done to try to make a lot of it back, And I just I think that it's the best opportunity right now. That's going to get worse as obviously the percentage hikes up, that you're getting worse and worse rates. So why do you think it is a good opportunity though right now, Ewok? And again, it's not as if we sacrifice with a small amount. I mean, it's the opposite of what people did for the Pulse and Pulse X sacrifice. Like, it's money that you're comfortable with sacrificing. Sure. So what do you?
Well, first, I kind of want to go over this because I think a lot of people still don't really understand the way that it works, right? So for the first however many days, whether it was 20, 21 days, whatever, 20 days, you got a rate of $1 equaled 10,000 points, tokens, whatever you want to call it. They're 10,000 points. When the pool was put together by Buck, everybody pools their money and to get the biggest bonus, which is again the multiplier was upwards of 3x, but it works on a curve. Currently, it is at 2.6% or 2.64 multiplier. So, you're going to get whatever you put in at the rate of 2.6 minus their little fee that they have. You're going to get about 2.25 anyway. In the first however many days. Now, on yesterday when it did tick up. Now, instead of $1 for 10,000, you're getting 10,000, but it's going to cost you $1.625. So $1.625 to get the same 10,000. Tomorrow it goes up to $1.12. Then the next day is $1.19, so on and so forth until it gets pretty crazy here on the 19th or 20th of December. Even you're at almost $3 to get those same 10,000 points. So that's how this curve works. So right now, the $1.06 isn't really a big deal. Even tomorrow, $1.12, not so bad. It really starts to add up though after 2 or 3 days of this curve starting. So if you are considering it, you know, don't wait too long or you're really going to hurt yourself. I would say after 4 or 5 more days, you're at $1.50. It's probably not even worth it. You're losing 50% of your original buy-in at that point. You may be better to just kind of sit back and watch. If it dips, maybe buy it then. But either way, I wanted to kind of explain that. Now, once it gets to the 4th of January for 5 days, it goes to a straight up, there is no more bonus. Oh, well, by the way, so the whole time this is happening, if you sacrifice to the pool, you're still getting that three or the 2.6 whatever bonus, minus the fees off the top. It still counts up until this final day at January 4th. After that, there is no more weighted multiplier bonus. You only get a 75%. So if you put $1,000 in, you're only going to get $750 worth of tokens, and the rate is $8.34 per 10,000. So it's a crazy. It's just not worth it. However, this is the time when the OA, sacrifice, whatever you want to call it, got in the last time when it was a flat bonus, whatever it was, flat bonus 0.75 percent or 75% with no multiplier. So you can't increase the pool. You can't, at that point, you can't overtake somebody with the bonuses. So I believe that's why that entity waited so long the last time to put in at the very end. And it cost them a lot more money to get, a very similar amount of what would have been done in the first couple of days. I believe they're just giving people a fair chance, right, to be up there. So I wanted to kind of explain that because there are 15 minutes left today for people to understand that,
Right.
after today, it goes to $1.12 and then $1.19, and it just keeps going up from there. So, again, if you're thinking about doing this, I wouldn't wait. Again, don't feel pressured or led into it. But if you're kind of sitting on the fence, you might want to jump in before the water gets too shallow that you're going to break an ankle when you hit the bottom. So
Right.
Anyway, all right. So what was the question?
No, from Next Girl. So she says, will the pool, meaning Buck's pool there, be closed after the rate changes? So, I mean, I think she's referring, when she says pool, I'm assuming she means Buck's pool.
I don't think he can. Now, will they?
Well, he can at any time.
Yeah, I guess he could.
I don't think that's the plan, though. To answer your question, Hex Girl. I mean, honestly, if you want to be involved in what's going on with the pool, and Buck has been ubiquitous on like all these streams and stuff too. So there's that. But I would get in the Telegram if you just go to, I think it's ProveXpool. ProveXpool.com, and it'll have a link to the Telegram and stuff there. Like I've been in there every day, just kind of seeing what they're saying. There will be a time when he will close it, I believe, though.
Yes. Well, once it gets to be disadvantageous to even get in, I'm sure it requires a lot of calculation on their part. It's going to take a lot of work. I mean, I know he's got developers that work on their PH sites and things like that that built the format to do whatever they'll do on the payout side of things and the bot and everything like that. But yeah, eventually it's not even going to be worth it. And they may even say, hey, at some point, don't sacrifice anymore. I hope they get the word out because we're not accepting anymore. It may get sent back. I don't know what'll be done with it. But either way, there's going to be a point where it's just not even to your advantage to get in at that point.
Yeah, which he may shut it down by then. So I would check with that. I mean, like, and for some of the people that I find this rich too, but it's probably the same people that complain about our age are the same people that might be in that pool in Buck's Telegram, complaining about decisions he's making. When I mean, you could just go ahead and not sacrifice in the pool and get like
Yeah.
half the multiplier, so I don't know. I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Hexcrawl. I'm just saying there are people doing that. So yeah, check in with that. I do think he will definitely shut it down at some point. I don't know when that will be, but whenever it's, like you said, Ewok, not advantageous anymore. So
yeah, I mean, unless you have over $300,000 to take the number 2 or 3 spot, it is beneficial to join the pool. So again, I think the first, you're still at a straight up almost 2.0. All of these are over 100 grand. So
the top 10 or so there. Is that 10?
Yeah, that's the top 10. We could go down to 100 or whatever. But you're still, even at $20,000 here flat, you're at 1.6. So it takes a lot of economic energy to kind of replace what you're getting by joining the pool. Even with the fee and the step up here, and in the next couple of days.
Valiant low key, no. The Buck pool, there's nothing about the wait, let me read this again. Pool decide on that the deadline for the bonus to end, or did the bonus and multiplier changes, that's just the sacrifice set. The only thing that Buck's pool controls is and again, I would be in the Telegram to see this stuff. They communicate it pretty dang clearly, but depending upon when you're sending, there is always a small fee that they will charge on the back end before they distribute tokens for using their pool. And that's changed over time. I don't want to totally weigh this stream down with those details, because I would go check with Buck for that. And frankly, you missed the best rate already by far. I mean, they always could reduce it in retrospect, but I think right now they're taking a fee off the multiplier of 33%, but it was 10% during the first week or so, Ewok. So I would go check where they are. But either way, regardless of any of that, yeah, at this very moment, still advantageous to sacrifice with the pool than on your own, for sure, if you're interested in sacrificing. If you don't want to do any of this, please don't do it. That's what people seem to think that just discussing the options mean we're trying to say that this is what you must do. No, you don't have to do anything. No. There's plenty of people out there right now dumping tokens they've held for 2 years to sacrifice for it, which is not great. But anyway.
No, and try to use fresh capital if you're going to do this.
Definitely.
Again, do what you want with your own money, and we're not telling you what to do. It's a recommendation that we did ourselves, and that was put fresh capital in. I don't want to sell tokens at a loss. It just doesn't make sense.
Viper, to answer your question here, what tokens can you not sack with? It'd be easier. There's a lot you can't sack with. To make this easy, and I'll tell you this, especially if you're participating in Buck's pool and everything, I would use stables. That's would be my preference, and I would send from Ethereum or Pulse Chain. That's going to be your easiest way to do it. You can send Ethereum and stuff, but then you're also will go up or down in value. I am a fan of using stables and sending from Ethereum or Pulse Chain. If you're on Pulse Chain, what I mean by stables is the Ethereum copy of USDC, DAI, Tether, whatever it is. That would be on the main coin options if you were on the Pateus DEX or something.
The ones that are pegged to $1.
Not the ones that are future going to be pegged to $1. Make sure the ones that are currently $1 that live on Ethereum, but you're getting the wrapped version on Pulse, those are accepted. And Buck has said if you're sending from ETH or Pulse and using stables, that's the easiest by far for them. It auto sends to the sacrifice address, actually. Yeah. So, because there's a lot of people that are like, I have this on Base and I have this on Polygon, and they're like, we'll probably get to it tomorrow and manually send it for you. So keep it simple, and that's what I would stick with. That's what we have done. So yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that's kind of the mechanics around it, how you can do it if you're still interested. It's amazing to me. I didn't, we didn't know Richard would do that live video, but I wouldn't have anticipated that the day after the best period ended, everyone would be flooding. Not everyone, but some people would be flooding into this thing. But let's face it, it's because of the video. I keep wanting to say live stream. So
yeah,
that leads us to that. So if you guys are enjoying this video and are happy to hear from Richard Hart, hit the like button. We appreciate you being here. A lot of good content and comments here tonight. So a video from Richard. It was mainly about ProveX, but it was about everything. It was about market conditions and everything else. Let's just go with some of the big bullet points that we got from it, Ewok. I think we both listened to it a couple times now. If it's okay with you, because I was kind of doing in chronological order of the video, some of the main points he brought up, and want to get it past you. So uploads the video yesterday. So first off, the fact that he did one at all, mega bullish. Doesn't even necessarily matter what he talked about in it. Everybody's out here like proof of life. Where's Richard? As you mentioned earlier, is it even him running his Twitter account? He talked about in the video how much it pisses him off that people think that, it's not him and stuff like that. So very good at all just to get this, first off, I think is terrific. I imagine there's even a reason that he waited. And, of course, he purposely released it when he did. It was a week and a half or so ago when he said, in a day or two after I get some notes together, I may do a video. Then it, almost 2 weeks later. So I think there was probably a reason for that. But first off, he went over the need for proving transactions and why this is kind of a new paradigm and a new product and why centralized exchanges are so bad and what ProveX's role in that would be. He talked about ZK P2P being inferior to what he is creating. I think in a way it is somewhat of a copy or a fork of that, but as he tends to do with a lot of his stuff, like Pulse X, for example, it's a better version of it, really, objectively, because there's other details added that in Pulse X's case, Uniswap doesn't have. So, but for this, ZK P2P doesn't have a token, of course. So this does, and there is a buy and burn and a lot of other tokenomics in there. So what did you make, just first off, about his need for this product overall, how it compares to ZK P2P, and what he feels this will do in terms of like bringing new people into the ecosystem? Because this is really, that's the thing I think people are missing. This is not like a Pulse Chain product.
Right.
And I don't mean like the token may be on Pulse Chain, but I'm just saying this is for many avenues to get into Pulse Chain. So yeah, what did you make of all that?
Well, first thing, if you haven't watched the video, you should. And if you want to make a little game out of it, every time he says long story short, you should take a shot.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I think he said it about 7 or 8 times. Long story short. You didn't catch that at all?
I did not. No, I did not. No.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, this is a very broad, very marketable product. It is not singular to any chain. It will work on all of them. And, here's the interesting part that I'm not sure, we won't have an answer quite yet anyway, but the ProveX token, will it be multi-chain? That will be the interesting part. Will this be bridged to all chains with a very similar value? When something is this low of a market cap, it's possible to do that. When things get really heavy, like Hex was, makes it very difficult to bond the two together. Now, it could have been done, but at the same time, it would have required all of the OA tokens basically from both chains to do so. So, yeah, stupid was another one. So yes, multi-chain, whatever. So it's going to be very easy to market. It's going to be a very easy product to talk to your buddy about, even if they don't use Pulse Chain. I forget who it was. Somebody had mentioned, somebody that has family somewhere, or somebody that wanted to send something to somebody, instead of having to use Western Union anymore, you can replace it with this product. So it's going to be a very, very similar, but more of a, it'd be more like a Western Union. Obviously, Venmo is out there now. But if you don't want people monitoring your stuff, this is a very private way to transact with whoever you want, and prove that you did it, essentially. So, yeah, I think I just think it's going to be very easily marketable, and talked about. You don't have to be a Richard Hart fan. You don't have to be a Pulse Chain fan. Hell, you don't even have to like Ethereum. So you could be on some layer 2 somewhere, and it will probably, work just the same way. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think very encouraging, and that's why, listening to a lot of these Buck spaces and stuff like that, I think that's why he's been so bullish too. Is like it really is bringing a lot of chains together, and it sounds like like you said, the token could be multi-chain. I think he mentioned ERC20 and PRC20 at some point on it too. So, obviously, some details are purposely still left vague, which I think is a good idea. But really interesting to see. To go along with that, I'm just going through to see which part of it makes
Viper styles, it depends on what chain you're on. You can sack from ETH, you can sack from Pulse. You use the gas to send the token to either straight into the pool, or the sacrifice address. All you're doing is sending tokens at this point. So whatever gas fee, I mean, obviously Pulse will be cheaper than ETH. I mean, ETH has been super cheap too, but whatever chain you're on is the chain that you use. All you're doing is sending tokens.
What I would recommend, go to the Telegram, please. I sent the website earlier. I'm not trying to be mean, but if you really want to get, because we're just on here doing a stream, if you want Dylan and Buck to help you, and anybody else of the thousands of members in that Telegram, I would go in there, because they
Be
will
very, very careful who you talk to in Telegram, though.
just don't answer DMs. Yeah. But Buck and Dylan are in there. That, trust me, they're like, there is a lot of info in there, and just ask direct questions. Make sure you join the correct Telegram on the thing. And Briz, I appreciate you helping him and everybody out in the chat as well. Okay, so moving on to the live streams here. So Richard did acknowledge the core Pulse Chain tokens not being accepted, which of course caused a little kerfuffle with some people. Obviously, they're deciding that they're going to just send them anyway, by selling them today and sending them in. But in regards to those not being accepted, and again, not to be redundant, but I think it has to do with bringing in new users. So, but another thing, and it was funny and interesting to see him just mention this. We talked about it at the beginning of the show, but basically less sacrificers means less sellers and smaller market cap. He evidently did learn this, obviously, from Pulse and Pulse X sacrifices. Now, that was a totally different landscape. People were flush with cash, flush with money then at that time. It is the complete opposite now. Again, he and all of us in all of crypto thought that Ethereum would have done much, much better by now and helped in a way to pull up not just Pulse and Pulse X, but the altcoin market. That hasn't happened. He basically actively admitted that, this ProveX sacrifice is kind of purposely not heavily advertised. He even, I think, called out that, I forget what he said specifically, but one of the sites doesn't mention one of the other products or something, and that's stupid, but that's the way it is right now or something. But basically that, it is desirable to have a lower valuation at launch, and that this is all intentful, like a lot of us have anticipated. So I don't know if you had any extra thoughts on any of that stuff.
No, I talked about it earlier, and I think the reason why was more to entice selling. Shake them out, shake out the weekends, use it as a dual opportunity. If you want to sell your coins at a loss, go ahead. Not going to take them, because it's not liquid enough to do at the moment. Don't want you to get rid of them. But if you feel the need to sell them, go ahead. And it does the same thing, as getting fresh capital in, but keeping the market cap low. So yeah, I didn't really have anything to add.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. But yeah, exactly. And it's interesting you say that, like knowing that people would sell them anyway,
Yeah.
without accepting them and just getting them out essentially, I guess. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that was specifically Prove X centric here. Um, no, not really. I mean, yeah, it was mainly that talking about what the product would be. It sounded very bullish, and he's trying to bring in, a lot of other people. He mentioned the Fusaka upgrade coming to Ethereum, which hit today, and
Hmm.
how it would be good for Pulse, help lower fees and things like that. I didn't read it, but I think he's responding to Vitalik right now on Twitter about a bunch of stuff and writing a whole diatribe to him. Regarding Pulse Chain, he thinks that all the products are amazing, listed them all. And again, like he has for quite some time, kind of his rallying cry is just that it needs marketing,
Yep.
which I thought was interesting to talk about. Again, I think also Ethereum going up in price or Bitcoin or anything at this point wouldn't hurt too, probably. But
Yeah.
yeah, he talked about marketing and that the marketing hasn't been there. And that'll be a good transition into him talking about the tablet stuff because he talked about the charity in the US that is delivering them. There was 100,000 that were already delivered that, and maybe you know better about what he was getting to here than me because I don't know specifically what he meant, but just that the way in which they did it didn't work optimally, I guess. I
Well,
don't.
yeah, to optimize, I mean, it took so much time and effort to get them sent. And he didn't feel that it was A, happening fast enough, or B, getting enough traction, right? I mean, there were some people that got some views, a couple of those things hit, and at first, there were videos coming out and people like, what the hell is this? So I think they're trying to pivot, right? And I think honestly, using Johnny is the one that suggested this idea, but put them on Amazon, sell
Yeah.
them for like $10 each. Let them handle the shipping, let them handle the marketing, let them handle you search for them on there and it's going to be with you.
Hmm.
So, people can hand them out like you and we could buy 5 or 10 of them and hand them out to friends as marketing. Let that happen, and just provide them with the product, and you can actually make some money on it to use for other things. So I honestly think that is one of the better ideas out there. There are some you could probably donate to hand out at events, things like that. If you go to some, if you have an in at a golf tournament or something like that, where people, golf is an expensive sport. You could get those things in the hands of some people. Maybe it would. Anyway, there's a lot of ideas, but rather than send them to random addresses, I think they really want to pivot, and make it a little bit better of a marketing campaign. So, I think that was the what he was talking about.
Yeah. And then he went on to say too, bullishly that there's still a million
Yeah,
tablets still waiting to be delivered with a better strategy. I'm just wondering, what he may specifically mean, but I mean, they do have, ways of optimizing it. They learned a lot, obviously, from this last round, and there's still tons and tons of them out there. It was the plan from the beginning that these would be sent out throughout 2026 as well. So,
right.
that's the other thing too. The fact that only 100,000 were sent out so far, that was before we knew that this market was going to be utter trash still. So,
Right.
it's kind of one of those things where like Coinbase holds your tokens for a week and then the price goes down and you get a better deal.
Yeah,
With this, it's kind of like, we haven't had many of them delivered yet, and the market is, I mean,
is
totally
still
down.
tanking. Still, well,
Yeah,
somewhat for the most part, but
yeah.
yeah,
Retail's not
uh,
around. So yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, so still a lot more to be delivered, which is definitely encouraging, and he seemed very positive about. So that is good. I thought this was interesting, actually. I was surprised he answered this. I wonder if you were. So he answered a question, somebody trolling him, obviously, about buying Ethereum at $3,700, and basically said, he owned it, and said markets are hard to predict, which I did find interesting because, this is a guy who has retroactively like talked about his calls, calling the top in
Yeah.
2021 and stuff like that, among other things. But I thought that was interesting. He basically said no one knows which way the market's going to go, even though, again, he does brag about his past calls. He said it would have been nicer to buy at 1,400, which we saw.
1,400.
Yeah, we saw Ethereum capitulate to, I don't remember, sometime this Pat last year. He didn't seem too concerned about it. And
No.
I don't know, is he getting rusty at making these calls? What do you think? Because he did buy that off of like 6 months of green candles, the Ethereum. And, it was right when the Ethereum ETF was kind of announced and stuff. And it's not like that's all the money that the guy has, but yeah, I don't know. What did you make of his response to that question?
Well, I think, I wonder if he gave the real reason, because we still speculated why it was done, when it was done. And I think maybe he was, if that was the case, would he have said it? Would he have come out and said, exactly, this is all SEC related. That's why.
Say that. Right.
Exactly. I think he's probably just better off to say, yeah, wish it would have been a 1,400 instead. And I honestly think that's just what he went with. I don't think it's him being rusty. Although there was a point where he said, don't know what the markets are going to do. He's kind of similar to where we're at now with what's going on, man. When's this going to turn around? Well, retail's not here. So don't know. We hope it does something. We think it'll do something, but we don't know for sure. And he obviously doesn't either. So yeah, I think, again, I think it was just him kind of giving an excuse of like, oh, well, deal with it kind of thing. It's not your money anymore anyway. So that's the thing that people need to remember. It's not anybody's money. It's sacrificed money. People need to remember that it's not community money anymore that they expected him to buy back with. And I really think that's the root of all these questions and issues with that price was they thought that he would use it to buy up the tokens. So
yeah, great observations by Fishcracker in the chat. Yeah, that we've talked about it before. Like he was facing the heat from the SEC around that time, or he had ears to the ground, feeling that he did. And once you have that money in Ethereum, there's not really anything that can be done. Right. Again, he says if he was on stables, the government can force to get a hold of those via those stablecoin companies. Exactly, which is why those stablecoins suck.
We've talked about that many times over, the last many months. That was our theory as well, as to why it happened. So
yeah. So I saved not the best for last, but one of the things I wanted to hear for last. So somebody asked him like, hey, is the 4-year cycle dead? And you just alluded to this, but like he obviously is surprised at the way things have gone long term here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't, even a guy like him didn't foresee, just Bitcoin's going to go to about 125K, which was roundabout a lot of people's cycle top. I'd say that was within the realm of a lot of people's guess for a cycle top, maybe more like 140. But everyone to a man basically thought that you would get 10K ETH with it to 15K or something. No, we got not even 5. We really did not get a new Ethereum all-time high yet. Anyway, we
20
haven't
minutes.
seen it. Yeah, so for the 4-year cycle, he says, he hopes that it's over. Lists off all the reasoning that we did at the beginning of the show, all the great macroeconomic things that are coming up, the rate cuts, the money printing, all these things. And then on the other hand, it's just Bitcoin doing what it's always done before, you know what I mean? And just said that it's hard to call this, but that a 35 to 40% dip for BTC in a bull market is normal also. He said, as we all know, that retail hasn't been here and that it's only institutions and BTC. So, like you just said, I mean, he seemed to be kind of punching in the dark about it as much as us, but he doesn't seem pessimistic about things, long term, just about like what the heck is going on with this cycle and the fact that we haven't had
Yeah.
retail here yet. So I was hoping that maybe he had something more definitive as far as thoughts on that. But here's the great thing about guys like him and business guys like that is entrepreneurs kind of have decision trees all the time. It's not as if
Mhm.
Ethereum not going up, killed him or anything like that with his lifestyle, the money that he's sitting on and stuff like that now. While it would have certainly helped him, there are other plans that you can go with. And, we talked about with the ProveX sacrifice, was he always going to do it in this window of time? And maybe he just thought once again, repeat 2021, we're going to have all this high valuation and a bunch of money comes in. Or now it's like, well, I'm going to do this the inverse way. I can still launch this now and get a lower valuation and kind of bootstrap some things myself if the market's not here, which is what's happening. And that's why we've been bullish on sacrificing for ProveX, because it's like, well, if there's some other action that I can take right now, since the market isn't here, I'd like to be involved with this. So what do you make on his, not really knowing where we're at as far as cycles go? And I guess, would the ProveX sacrifice have gone on either way? And just kind of the way that he does need to just decision tree this stuff. Like, well, what can I do if the market's not here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this would have even happened, honestly. I feel like this could have been later down the road, as far as that goes. And, it was probably sitting in his bag of tricks. I don't know that it would have launched had we started to go up in October, whatever, October, November-ish, where we thought it may. And who knows if this would have even happened. I don't think I do think he learned a lesson by giving out tokens like that to make them extremely heavy. But this could have been a very, very last minute, which also makes me wonder, is it ready? How, yeah, we may get a token right away. But is the product ready? How long does it take for that to happen and to come out? Because the famous saying, software's hard. And to get it right and to get it working properly. Now, yes, there is already existing things out there, but I'm sure there will be added on touches. Ethereum was out there too, and it took a while to fork that, right? So it's not just an easy fork where you change the name and add a buy and burn or add a burn to it every time a transaction's done. I don't think it's quite that simple. So especially when you're talking privacy stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. When you think about, would it have even happened had we had a normal cycle? I don't know that it would have. I think this is something maybe after the fact. You get narratives where started to really come out where ZK or Zcash was really being talked about, and it made a crazy little run. And I think maybe that kind of triggered it. That was just several weeks ago, or a month ago, maybe, that the Zcash thing started to kind of pop off, right?
Yeah.
I know that was roughly a month ago when we were looking at that chart, and it really kind of took off. People are interested in privacy, so maybe that triggered it. It's really hard to say. I wish we had a map of what really was going on in his brain and kind of a better timeline, but obviously, you don't want everyone to know your secrets either. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think, had we had a normal cycle, I don't think we would have even seen this. I really don't. What do you think?
I just wanted a funny observation. So the ProveX sack rate just ticked over here at 7 Eastern time, and now
Yeah.
Pulse just rallied back up instantly right after that happened. I mean, it's still in it's down obviously, but it just started to rally back up, which I thought is kind of funny. Well,
it's a new day. The new day ticked over.
Yes, yeah, and the
So
ProveX, yeah, right, and then suddenly Paul starts to go back up as well. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Oh, you're asking? No, I don't know. I think that certainly I think the plan was going to be at some point. Yes, Richard is going to stay relevant in this game. I mean, he talked about that in the stream. Like, you just keep trying things and you persist and you're there and they don't kill you and you're there at the end. And I want to get to his honestly, really, I thought inspiring quote that he left everybody with. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I think no matter what, there's speculation it's going to be a heart wallet. I'm much more bullish on what we actually have than a wallet idea. Honestly, I'm much, much happier with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this was going to be in the works no matter what. And yeah, I think probably within this time frame, generally, he was going to do it no matter what, whether it was the easy route was probably repeat 2021, the same way we did it and, do it all over again. But now you have this, and it's like, okay, well, how can I make lemonade out of these lemons? What can I do with this situation, which is always the best way to look at things. Like, no, it's not doing what I want it to do. I can continually bitch about it or whatever, or figure out how can I do the best with what I've been presented here. So I think this kind of would have happened either way, but I think he tailored it to the situation we're in, basically.
Yeah.
I guess if that makes any sense. And you, when you were speaking, reminded me of this, a topic I didn't write down, but that was, when could this token come? Because a lot of people, one of the negativities about this from people's point of view is, I'm not going to do this again where I sack and this thing comes out, it goes down 90%. That part, they're kind of ignoring the valuation difference. I mean, you're talking nearly $1 billion with Pulse X to literally at this moment, not even 15 million with ProveX. Right. But in terms of, then it's also, well, Pulse Chain didn't launch, like the token for Pulse X, all that stuff didn't launch until the blockchain launched. And that was years. That was over 2 years.
Two years. Yeah.
This, I mean, Richard alluded to it, that, hey, there's no reason a token couldn't be out, first or before the product's out or shortly after. So that's another thing people have been alluding to. And there's been a lot of correct calls on this, I feel like. Not that it's all happened yet, but in terms of the sacrifice, there's been a lot of correct calls here. And this is another one where, will the token come out, maybe not right after the sacrifice set, but soon after that, and certainly before the product is out. So it sounded like he alluded to that. What do you think the chances of that are? Because I think people are going to be caught completely off guard by this. There's a lot of people that are like, no, I'm not sacking. Wait for it to come out. It'll go down 80% if I want to buy it then. I don't think that kind of stuff, I don't think it's going to be the same way. This isn't the same setup. So
I don't either. It's not near. So here's a couple things. And I think I brought this up to you earlier this afternoon. So it's only 15 million. The entity of Richard or the OA or whatever you want to call it, I'm sure will sack at the end and get a portion of the tokens. It'll make it whatever 50, 60 million would be my guess as far as market cap goes, which is still very, very light, especially when that entity owns the majority of the tokens, right? So I don't know that you'll see a sell-off. Now, there will be people that got in the pool that got a 2.5x, 2.5, whatever X, that may sell half of them just because they're already in profit, right? But will that entity prop that price up? If you remember, and by the way, yesterday was 6 years Hex birthday.
Yep.
The Hex 6-year birthday, I should say. If you remember back during the AA, the adoption amplifier, the first couple days when that happened, the price between the AA and Uniswap were so off balance that people would put money into, put ETH in, get the hex out, put it on Uniswap, sell it immediately, and they were arbitraging the price and making a nice chunk of money. It didn't take but a couple days before they realized that and started adding money to balance it out, so that what you got wasn't far off from the actual value that was on Uniswap. So
Right.
it only took a couple days. I foresee something very similar happening here, where that price is protected and it doesn't get to drop very far. So people that may think this is going to drop, just like Pulse and Pulse X, need to understand that this is nowhere near as heavy. There aren't as many tokens out there. People didn't have to wait 2.5 years for this to just automatically dump them because they were tired of waiting and wanted out, or they first saw it going so much lower that they sold right away, thinking that they would buy back in and get however many more tokens down the road. So I just don't see that happening this time. It's not near as heavy. Market cap, it wouldn't take very much to set limit orders and buy those right back up, and defend a floor pretty quickly. In fact, even buy more of them off the market and push the price up. So yeah, I see this playing out a lot differently, for that simple reason that the valuation is so low. It doesn't take much to prop it up.
Right. Yeah. I'm with you. It's going to be very interesting to see. And I think getting a token out quickly, that'll all catch a lot of people off guard. If the token's out quickly and you don't see that kind of a drop. And it's something that you mentioned to me earlier on the phone too. These people that are saying like, oh, I'll wait for it to drop 50% or whatever. Like you said, that would be getting, like, even then you're not getting the deal that we get by doing getting a multiplier and stuff like that. So you're still like, even getting it at a 50% drawdown.
Well, at this point now it would, right? As far as you'd have to join the pool, with the today it's 1.12, and the 30% haircut off the top that Buck and his team are taking as a fee. Now you're breaking even. You have to get to about 50%, and maybe even 60% to get a better deal. So I don't know. I don't know that I would expect that to even happen.
Yeah.
And I love the people that are saying, I'm not touching it.
That's fine. Yeah. Turk Montana in the chat, as we've said all stream, don't do it if you don't want to do it. I mean, I don't get the hostility from some people, but yeah, just don't do it. Nobody wants you to do that. Nobody's telling you to sell anything. If you spam the chat, you're probably going to get blocked, by the way. Interesting question here by Mick Slammit. At what point during the PulseX sack did the OA sack millions? Was it like at the very end?
Yes, it was in those last 5 days. That's it. Rewind a bit there, Mick Slammit. I talked about that as to when they got in the last time, and it was at that rate where it was a flat 0.75 during the final 5 days. So
yeah,
I have a feeling that the same thing will happen for this one.
Yeah. Cool. Well, did you have? Oh, I did want to say. So the last thing that Richard said on that stream that I did really like. I like it when he talks like this because you can see. I feel like this is when the real guy comes out a little bit. But he said, "If you do your best for a long time and don't quit, the world will yield to you." He expanded on it a little bit, but just basically just to continue persevering. And if you, I mean, say what you want about this guy, and a lot of people hate him at this point that used to support him, and that's fine. I understand that, but I don't think he'd be fighting and doing the things he'd be doing if he didn't give a shit. I mean, he doesn't have to be doing any of this. He's putting himself in danger. On multiple fronts. He had to spend millions upon millions on the best lawyers in the world, basically, to defeat the SEC in court. Why would you do that? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I get it. Things are really dark right now. They can continue to feel dark and stuff like that, but it is not uniquely on Richard Hart's shoulders, and that's just the thing that I think people have to get over. And it's not fun, but sometimes we have to look in the mirror and say, how many of us are bag holders from 2021? Like those decisions are on our shoulders, and you don't have to constantly guilt trip yourself about it, but once you own that, you can kind of start to move forward rather than being in denial or blaming other people all the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly. And he did bring up one of the points is that he's improved a lot of these protocols. He made improvements. They are better. And if you stick with it, eventually the better things usually win out. So that was another comment that he made. And that's why they take the time to do things a little bit better and make it, not just a regular fork, but let's make it better. Let's make it interesting with some mechanics and that the other protocols don't have. So
yeah,
it just adds that little bit extra. Try to make it better. Eventually they'll catch on. We are still so very far ahead of most of the technology. This community knows more about DeFi than any other community that I've seen out there with that stuff, and they don't understand providing liquidity and some of these different protocols that we use and take for granted. Right? We are so far ahead, and it's going to take a little while for people to even catch up to us. And by then, where will we be at? So, I think we take that for granted a lot too, that we are advanced, and it does take a little while for the world to catch up to us. So we're definitely early to the party.
Yeah. Yeah, and a note that I saw a few minutes ago, I guess there's estimations that about $4.5 million in sell pressure within Pulse Chain can be attributed to the ProveX sacrifice, it looks like, from what people are saying. So pretty interesting.
Up to 14.764 now. It just...
Yep. There you go. Continuing to slide on up. So, great video from Richard, though. I mean, again, I know we dissected it, but just the fact that we even got one, the fact that he was out there doing it is highly encouraging, I think above all else. So, appreciate all you guys in the chat. Ewok, I didn't really have much else to go over tonight. I think we had a jam-packed show there, but just what do you want to kind of leave everybody with?
Well, I want to wish a happy birthday to our buddy DGen Moonboy. He's not here. He's out for dinner tonight, but wanted to shout him out and say happy birthday to him. Go ahead. Well, I'm not going to sing. You can sing, but also wanted to bring up a point about the Fukasa update that we
Fusaka.
Didn't
a lot of people. Yeah, everybody keeps getting it. I did too. So yeah,
Fusaka. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's going to definitely improve things. Richard kind of brought this up a little bit too. About the fees, right? When you make the fees so low, it doesn't give anybody a reason to buy that token.
Yep.
These layer 2s have been getting by rather easy with minimal to no fees at all, because all the action was happening on the L2s. Well, this update is going to help that and make them pay their fair share kind of thing as well, which will, I think, change and pivot Ethereum back to being a non-inflation token. It will be deflationary once this update takes place, because it's going to add, roughly 400 to 600,000 tokens of buy pressure back in to what recently wasn't there. So that's very bullish in my opinion. At some point when you make your fees so low, it doesn't give anybody the reason to buy. Now, we don't have any ICO hype. We don't have any NFT hype. We don't have a lot of new things launching that are causing the blocks to become crowded. So, there isn't really reasons out there for people to buy Ethereum right now. This could help. This could definitely be a first step in kind of going back in the right direction. So I am excited about that. We didn't talk about much about what it really did, but I think it's very, very bullish. So
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt that the layer twos have definitely not helped out Ethereum. And you'll probably see when you get off Ewok, I think it was in response to Vitalik, but Richard wrote a couple real long posts mentioning that. So we'll check those out whenever we get off
okay,
there
I
too.
haven't
So
seen them.
anyway, so yeah, this has been a great stream, primarily focusing on Prove X, kind of the prices of everything right now, where the market's going, and the RH video. So appreciate all you guys. Viper Styles, Valiant Low Key, Briz checking in. Appreciate you. Philly, Hex Girl, Ryan, Fish Cracker. I don't recognize you from before Fish Cracker, but you had some good comments tonight. McSlammin, NJ Dub, trying to look at some others. We had Tam RH Max at the beginning of the show. So really appreciate you guys. Happy birthday to DJ and Moonboy. We do this almost every Wednesday at 6:30 usually PM Eastern Standard Time. We plan to be back at that time next week. I'm sure we're going to have a whole lot more drama to talk about. But yeah, just keeping our head on a swivel right now and not selling when we're down and seeing if where we're going to go up. So that's kind of where we are. So for Crypto Ewok, this has been Beggar Boy Crypto right here on the Creed of Crypto. See you guys.
See ya.